So now that I have my design transferred to my metal, I'm ready to start the embossing etching process. Now before you start on your final, I want you to have a chance to practice this on just a piece of scrap metal. So the first thing that I'll have you do, you'll want to take one of the pointed tools, and I want you to just draw a shape into your metal. So maybe I'm going to start with just a circle shape. Okay. Now I want you to practice embossing. So embossing is when you raise it up. What that means is that you are going to take and turn it over to the back side. So what you might do on your metal to help you remember which side is which is on the side that's the back, you might take a Sharpie and write the word back. So that way you know which side is which. Once you have your shape drawn for your practice, then you're going to flip it over. You're going to take the pointed tool and you're going to go just around the inside edge of that line. I'm going nice and slow so I stay in my line. What that is doing is that's defining the edge of your design. And then I'm going to take one of my curved repoussé tools and I'm going to do a light layer of pressure on what is the back side. Now you don't want to press super hard on the metal because the metal can tear. So it's all about light layers of pressure in order to emboss. So, and I'm going many different directions. So I'm going right to left, left to right, top to bottom. And the reason for that is I don't want to see lines in my final. Then when I flip it over, you can see it's starting to raise up a little bit. So I'm going to take and I'm going to redefine the edge. So one thing you have to be careful about when you're working with the repoussé tooling techniques is if you don't take time to define your edges, your shapes will start to merge into one another. As you apply the pressure, you'll start to lose the shape that you had. So again, I just bring my pointed tool and I go around the edges on the back side after I did that on the front. I grab my curved tool again and I'm going to do another layer of pressure. Now, in the larger areas of your design, you'll definitely want to use some pressure to really get some nice dimension to it. That's one of the things that I'm looking for in this project is that you're able to get different heights and depths in your design to create that sense of dimension. This is a relief project, but it is also a sculpture, so it should have some dimension. It shouldn't just be flat. So I have some nice height here, and I could do that one more time if I wanted to. I think that's pretty good for height. I might apply just a little more pressure on this side here and call that good. Now I want you to practice etching. So you might draw some shapes around it. So one of the things I might do is, and this, like I said before, this is just a practice. So maybe I'm going to put some triangles on the sides. I want you to practice also working with different types of shapes. Circles are the easiest to create when you are, or to add dimension to. So I want you to practice some that have corners and some that have points. So for this one, since we're going to be etching in or forcing the metal back in space, we're going to work on the front side. Now I can take and still define my edges on the back, so I can take and press around the outside edge of my line here just to make sure my shapes are nice and defined. But when I start adding pressure into the center, I actually want to be working on the front side. So for this one, again, you can work with the curved. I like to start with the curved tool first. You can also work, this one has a little bit of a curve on the back side as well. Think about what size. This is why I tell you not to go too small with your shapes unless they're a circle, because it can be very difficult to get in there as you're embossing. Now sometimes as you're working with the metal, you will get wrinkles with it, especially if you're working in a really large space, you can take your tools and just press flat on the wrinkle and try and flatten the wrinkle with your tool. So you could take the flat end of this and press down, or you could take the flat end of this tool and press down. There are lots of different ones that have flat edges that you could use. So I've got a little bit of etching there. So now I'm going to flip it over. And again, remember we want to keep defining our edges. So we want to keep going around the outside edge. Now remember, as you're doing this work, you want to go nice and slow because any marks that you make in the metal stay in the metal. You don't want to press too hard because again, it can tear the metal. If you do happen to get a tear, just put a little bit of masking tape on the back side of the metal so that you can't see it, but it'll help prevent the tear from spreading. Okay, so now I'm going to take, I might start working with one of my flat tools. Anytime you are etching or embossing, it is best for you to be working on the phone book. If you aren't, you will have nowhere for your metal to go, and you will not get the height that you want. So remember, always work on a foam book to have that nice soft cushion for your repousse. Okay, so there's going to be my practice. Now I'm going to start in on my final artwork.